Tucson Police, Operator Folk.
Hi. I have a missing employee and am wondering if there's a possibility of doing a checkup of the house. Last time I saw them was Tuesday.
What address do they work
2 days
at?
ago.
How old she is?
She's 22, I believe. Some other employees have noticed that she's had some arguments with what she said was her husband at work.
Tucson Police, Aiken.
Yeah, can I have a wellness check on my daughter, Jazmine Willock?
And the reason for the chest welfare?
She didn't go to work for the last 2 days. The guy she's with is going to court for beating her, so I don't know if she's alive or not. So I need somebody to check on her. I'm going there right now.
My friend was with me when we got to her house. Everything was dark and quiet. We broke the window, and I climbed through, and I went through the house. I opened her bedroom door, and I seen her and him in there. Your mind does weird things to you, because at first I thought, who was that girl? They look like dolls, actually. The room was so quiet, and I knew she was gone because there was no spirit in that room. It was just dead.
On January 18, 2018, Jazmine Willock was killed by her partner, Terrace Ford Dillard. He shot her at least 6 times with a Glock 22 pistol. Then he turned the gun on himself. Terrace should never have had a gun. Felons and some people convicted of domestic violence are banned from having firearms under U.S. law. But these laws are ineffective and rarely enforced. Gaps in the system are allowing domestic abusers to keep their guns, with deadly consequences. Every month, an average of 57 women in the U.S. are shot and killed by their intimate partners. A number of these offenders were prohibited from having guns because of their criminal records. But we don't know how many because no one's keeping track. For nearly a year, I've been collecting and analyzing data on domestic violence homicides in more than 20 states, combing through thousands of pages of court filings and police reports. I found that over a recent 4-year period, at least 90 people were convicted, charged, or implicated in the deaths of their partners and others, using guns they weren't allowed to have under federal law. Jazmine's partner, Terrace, was one of them. In 2014, he was convicted of domestic violence assault against a girlfriend he lived with, which should have prohibited him from having a firearm. But these laws don't spell out how guns should be relinquished or taken away. They're enforced sporadically, or in Terrace's case, not at all. He carried a gun throughout his 3-year relationship with Jazmine.
I didn't quite touch those girls, but you know...
I remember him showing me his gun or something. I don't know if I saw him carrying it or if he saw it in their room one time.
When you saw that gun, what went through your head?
I don't know. I was just like, maybe for protection or something. But nobody really I know that I knew that time had a gun.
Did you worry about your sister?
Not really. I never thought about that.
Well, we got some New York strip steak, we got some flank steak, we got some carne asada. You know what that means? No steak.
I always think of the videos we have of her when she would just be goofy and laughing. Jazmine is very charismatic. She's fun and smart. She actually went to college when she was 17. She graduated pretty young. She was full of a lot of energy. She liked to dance and take pictures and artwork. She's just an amazing person, yeah.
No, you didn't answer my text all day.
She bought a house at 21 years old. She still worked 2 jobs and played soccer and was abused. I just don't know how she did all that.
Can you do exercises with me?
Let me touch your face.
Oh, why?
She sent me a video from work on January 16th.
My face is gorgeous.
She was taking care of one of her patients.
Beautiful.
You keep telling me. I just want to do exercises with you, crazy.
You're cold.
I know, my hands are always cold, but my heart's warm, right?
And that's the last time I heard Jazmine's voice.
When was the first time you had a bad feeling?
It was kind of from the beginning. He would always be where she was. If they were here, he was here with her. If she had to go to work, he would go with her. That was my first clue, and I was like, doesn't this guy have a job or something? Like, he never left her alone. I think I went to that house just less than a handful of times. I wasn't allowed to go over there. He would isolate her, keep her away from us. We didn't get to see her very often, or if we did, he was around. He would, like, look at her, like, she couldn't laugh or be goofy anymore. That's how I kind of started noticing her personality changed.
We knew something was wrong. So it's interesting not knowing that, like, my sister was getting abused by somebody that we talked to on a daily basis. We were totally oblivious for like 2 years because they were together for a while.
I think it was like in the summer. We found out like she like ran away or something, like in the desert.
This drive to Jazmine's house is like haunting, because that's when you're like thinking about everything.
This is Detective Delos. This will be an interview with the victim, Jazmine Willock. I understand you flagged somebody down. What led to that?
He went and he got the gun and he pointed it at me. I thought he was gonna shoot me.
Was there bullets in the magazine?
It's usually loaded.
Okay.
And he's like, I should pistol whip you. And I was like on the ground and I was saying, please stop, please stop, please stop, please. After that, he like went into the room and I ran out the back and I jumped over the fence. I just ran. Because I wasn't sure if he was following me or not. Ran through the bushes and down in the rocks. Because I didn't want to run on the road. I didn't know if he was going to come out. I'm starting to feel more of the pain now. Before I didn't really.
Wearing off.
I had a big cut. My foot was gushing blood.
Okay.
I came up here at the stoplight and I was trying to see if I seen the lights of like one of the security cars. I wanted to call my mom because I was scared that like he's threatened like my mom's life, and I was scared that would be the first person that he would go to or like hurt. So I just wanted to let her know, and I couldn't even think of her number. I couldn't think at all.
When she came to hug me, she didn't have shoes on, and she had marks on her neck, marks on her arms. Her back was all tore up, and her shirt was basically barely hanging on. The sleeve was tore off. She's like, Mom, it was my fault. It was my fault. I'm like, it's not your fault.
Mr. Ford Dillard, in a complaint charging you with domestic violence, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, domestic violence kidnapping.
Terrace was arrested and later charged with 2 felonies. He was ordered not to have any firearms.
Bond is $7,500. You're to commit no acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms, have no contact with Jazmine of any sort except through legal proceedings, and you're not to go back within 3 blocks of her residence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ford Dillard.
But the judge stopped there. Once again, Terrace wasn't ordered to surrender his gun, despite his domestic violence record.
The laws are incomplete. It doesn't say that the judges have to order police officers to go get those guns. It doesn't say that they have to do a follow-up hearing to make sure that the person actually turned in a gun like they were ordered.
So basically, we're operating on the honor system.
Mm-hmm. I think it sends a really terrible message to both survivors who are being told, we don't really have your back. We are going to issue this order, but we're not going to do anything to make sure that you're actually safe. And I think it also sends the absolutely wrong message to perpetrators, that they can break the law, that they can endanger the lives of their partners and other people.
After 2 weeks in jail, Terrace was released on bond. And according to police reports, he went on to abuse Jazmine. In November 2017, Jazmine ran out of her house to escape Terrace. Some of it was caught on a neighbor's security camera. She told detectives about that night.
I was about to take a shower and I just got scared and I just ran.
Jazmine is heard yelling for help as Terrace leads her back inside.
I wouldn't let him in and he got frustrated.
Can you tell me why you got scared?
He was so upset I didn't know what he would do. I just wanted to get away. I feel like I can't escape. I feel like I can't leave. Like I feel like I'm being pushed and pulled, and I feel like I just keep digging a bigger hole, and I don't know what to do now.
Jazmine was killed 2 months later.
6 months, 6 times 30 days that the courts allowed him to be around her, knowing he had a gun. The courts knew, the investigators knew, the police knew he had a gun. And there was nobody enforcing it.
I found these gaps in the system in cases across the country.
I knew that he was not supposed to have a gun because he was a convicted felon. I figured that they would keep track of that, you know, the officers, the officials that are supposed to.
Lisa Rucker's older sister, Ashlee, began dating Chad Absher in 2014. By then, Chad had been convicted of stalking an ex-girlfriend and shooting into her house. As a felon under both federal and Florida law, he was prohibited from possessing a firearm. But he carried one anyway.
Multiple people told Ashlee, including my father, that he was going to kill her. We had heard about him hitting her with a pistol. She told me that. She told me that he hit her in the head with a gun.
There's an altercation. I'm asking someone to leave. They will not get out of my apartment. It's my sister's boyfriend.
Does anyone have any weapons?
No.
So that night, when did you realize he had a gun?
When he pulled it out. He walks past me, past Ashlee. He pulls out a rifle, and he points it at me. Every part of me was like, he's not really gonna shoot me. As I turned my head down, it was bing, everything went black. I heard a loud noise.
Hello?
Oh my God, it's been a murder.
Who shot him?
His boyfriend. He shot him in the head. Oh my God. Oh my God.
When I came to the first time, Ashlee was about 6 feet away from me. I just saw blood around her head.
Chad shot Lisa and Ashlee before fleeing, according to police.
The bullet had went in the back of my head here and came out my cheek. It nicked my carotid artery, and it basically shattered my mandible bone into pieces. I kept saying, help me, I'm dying, help me, I'm dying. But apparently, my jaw was so messed up that you couldn't even hear it.
Sir, hello?
It was just gurgling.
Ashlee and Lisa's sons were there. They were 9 and 4 at the time.
I looked over and I saw my nephew standing over my sister. And he was crying. And I guess Colton noticed that I was awake because he came over to me and he said, "Mommy, please don't die."
Lisa was in a coma for 2 days. Ashlee was shot once in the head and died of her injuries. She was 30 years old.
Do you think if he had his gun taken away, Ashlee would still be alive?
Yes, I do. If he wasn't there with the gun, it wouldn't have happened.
Chad was indicted for several felonies, including first-degree murder. I contacted him in jail for an interview. I wanted to ask him how he got the gun, but he and his lawyer didn't get back to us.
All these laws that are out here, and my daughter's gone. Someone needs to start being held accountable.
What happened with Chad is not unusual. Over the past several months, I've spoken with a number of families whose loved ones were killed by their abusers.
And that is exactly what happened to Mariah.
Domestic violence offenders are rarely ordered to surrender their firearms. And women are 5 times more likely to be murdered when their abusers have access to a gun.
Mariah should be here with her son. Her son should have his mother.
What should happen?
If I had to answer, I would have my daughter here.
Who's at fault here? Is it the justice system? Is it law enforcement? Is it that we have weak laws? All of the above. I think enforcement is expensive and it's challenging. It requires a lot of coordination between all different stages of law enforcement, right? Between police and prosecutors and probation officers and sheriff's departments to make sure that that gun is actually taken away. And that type of coordination is just not something that people have decided is worthy of putting resources into.
Why was no one from the judicial system or police officers, no one decided to say, hey, this is a convicted felon and it's reported that he has a weapon, so why don't we just go and, get a warrant, search their house, let's find it, take it, let's get it back. Obviously it's illegal.
We failed that victim because we didn't have a framework in place where we could go and take that firearm. Right now, it's the Wild West as far as guns in the hands of abusers. And I introduced legislation because I don't believe it has to be that way.
Congressman Swalwell's legislation would require the federal government to develop procedures for abusers to relinquish their guns. But without enough support, the legislation died in Congress twice. He introduced it again earlier this year, but it's unlikely it'll pass.
Today in America, the right for an abuser to own a gun is greater than the right of a victim to be safe. Finding a way to account for the number of firearms that someone has is important. As to enforcing relinquishment, we are truly flying in the blind.
So why have a law on the books if it's not being enforced and it's not working?
We need to fix that. We shouldn't have laws on the books that are just for show. The laws really can't do anything if we don't have a way to verify whether a defendant has a firearm in the home. We don't know as a country how many people are prohibited who have firearms, and it's terrifying.
If anyone would know, it's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or the ATF, the agency in charge of enforcing the nation's gun laws.
How many people are prohibited from having guns because of felony convictions and qualifying domestic violence misdemeanors?
Oh, I don't know that number. I'm not sure anyone knows that number with precision.
And how many domestic violence homicides are being committed by people who are not allowed to have guns?
I don't have that number.
So you don't know how many people have died at the hands of partners who were prohibited possessors, and we don't know how many prohibited possessors are out there?
I don't know. We certainly track the number of firearms that we seize, but our mission is focused on investigating violations of federal laws and not following up on local misdemeanor domestic violence convictions.
As far as we know, we at Reveal are the only ones who have been collecting data on prohibited offenders who killed their partners. The reason that the federal government isn't doing this is complicated. Most convictions that make people federally prohibited happen in state courts, and that information doesn't always make its way to federal officials.
Just the American system, that it's very decentralized. These convictions and domestic violence restraining orders are issued across the country in local courts. And in each of those places, they have an opportunity to identify the violations early on. Tragically, a lot of these only come to law enforcement's attention when something terrible has happened.
Shot once in the heart, once in the leg. Shot in the hand. Then Tyrus Ford killed himself.
This country doesn't do prevention particularly well. The fact that the system is reactive is really the core of the problem. We don't take the trouble, take the time to actually take the gun away before they can harm another person. We punish them on the back end, and by that time, it's often too late. The hang-up is that Americans love their guns. Americans own more guns per capita than any other developed country, and we are loath to take them away, even in situations like this one.
We don't know how Terrace got the handgun he used to kill Jazmine, or how Chad got the rifle he's accused of using to shoot Ashlee and Lisa. And we may never know.
There were reports of him having a weapon. He should have been more regulated.
Not only are there very few mechanisms to make sure guns are taken away from prohibited offenders, there's also no national firearm registry. And federal law and some states don't require background checks for private gun sales.
There needs to be a better way to enforce that felons don't have access to weapons. I know it's hard, I get that. They can get it one way or another, steal it, buy it off the streets, whatever. So go one step ahead, be one step ahead of them. I feel like a lot of government people don't see how bad of an issue it really is. They don't see the ripple effect from it.
After Ashlee's death, her son moved to another state to live with his dad. Lisa hasn't seen her nephew in several years, and her son hasn't been the same since the shooting.
He's withdrawn. He used to be just open and different. He always tells me how much he misses my sister and my nephew. I'm worried that it will stick with him forever. You know, they say children are resilient, but they're not supposed to see that. They're not supposed to go through that.
It's crazy to think I'll be 22 next year.
Same age she was.
That kind of hits me, like, probably be a weird birthday next year.
It's just hard not having Jazz around. She's ripped out of our lives, and unfairly. I just try to know that she's now safe and not getting hurt. It just makes you angry that the system did nothing to help.